Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're doing a map analysis. We're going to look at Berlin. It's one of the ground forces maps which just got released on the open client for War Thunder, and at this moment in time I'm going to be looking at it in realistic. In arcade it's very similar though, the only real difference is the way the terrain works and obviously respawns and everything like that. But looking at Berlin at a first glance, I was absolutely astounded by this map. It is beautiful. The amount of dead vehicles, the amount of destructible stuff such as lights, buildings made out of wood, lampposts, everything like that. It reminded me of the first time I saw Poland, where you could destroy basically everything, except like the buildings. It really took me away, and obviously this map in itself is a beautiful map. You can just tell by this, it is obviously supposed to represent Berlin in the midst of the Battle of Berlin, where there was a lot of buildings destroyed, as you can see. There was a lot of just dead things. It's a very depressing map in a way, just because it is derelict and destroyed, which it should be if it's supposed to show the Battle of Berlin. Now the thing is, the map in itself, I would say, is easily the smallest of the three released, from Normandy to Hurtgen Forest to Berlin, so I thought it would be best to start off with this. So we look at the three major cap zones. Well, first of all, let's look at the spawn points. The spawn points are directly from each side of each other. It is basically impossible to hit the enemy from either spawn point, so that's all good. You don't have to worry about that. There are various hills, as you can see over there. There's a hill, there's also houses crowding it, so hitting enemies from there is going to be basically impossible. This side, the north side, is a bit more open, but once again, there is a hill. There are buildings, so spawn camping, that's really not going to happen. You can't spawn camp an enemy in the middle of the battlefield, which is where most of the action is going to be taking part. So we're going to start on A. Obviously, it's the closest point, and it's the one right next to the Reichstag. Now, one thing that they have got really well done, I think, is the fact that the map is very historically accurate. The fact it has names on it, and it tells you where everything is. The fact that there's the Brandenburg Gate, which is absolutely awesome. The river running through Berlin, and obviously the Reichstag itself, as we can see in all of its glory. Now, unfortunately, you can't go in the Reichstag, which, you know, makes sense. There's a bunch of tank traps outside to try and stop you, but this is spawn point. Sorry, not spawn point. This is the Domination Zone 1, or A. Now, this is where the problems start with Berlin. After it being wonderful to look at and wonderful to see, there is some very distinct problems with this capture point. Once you have locked it down, I cannot see how an enemy team can assault it easily, even in realistic. As you can see from this position, or even let's go to a better position, where a TD or a tank destroyer or a heavy tank or anything can sit just here, basically covered from everything. And you can shoot through this gap, which covers most of the roads which come into here from the enemy spawn. You can even turn your tank this way, so it covers the rest of them and these. So, as long as you get into positions like these using these houses, there is definitely not a lot an advancing team can do from the southern side of the map. These houses have been put here to create a little battlefield around A. But I think if a team starts to dominate it at the start of a battle, then there is hardly any chance of you taking it back. I kind of liken it to the central point on Carpathians, where once one team has taken it, it is nigh on impossible for the other team to stop it unless you get a clear break. And if you want support from the other areas, you can't. You cannot see the other areas of the map. So if you're trying to tackle this head on, and you have lost the point, and the enemy is around it, you are definitely going to struggle. Go away, plane. the wonderful machine gun on this. Another way to approach it, which may take too much time when looking at it, your tickets may run out too fast, is go all the way around this map from the southern side. Just as a little thing, it's not as bad on the northern side of A to hold it for the enemy team, so I think that gives the southern spawn point side a distinct advantage. Now, if you want to attack A from a better position, you have to do this. You have to go all the way around. You have to take this route through a lot of the derelict destroyed buildings, which do look beautiful. They really, really do. They've done a great job at modelling this map, which is something to definitely be proud of from the Gaijin developers. But it's all, these are not roads at all. This is all mud. So it's going to take you longer to move up. There aren't actually many proper roads in this Berlin map. There's this one, which is kind of a road, but still not fully a road. And there's the railway track, where you can actually go full speed pretty easy. But yeah, this is the edge of the map over here. As you can see, you can't pass the tank traps, and that is the Brandenburg Gate. So you have to, from the southern spawn point, go from there, along this large road, to the Brandenburg Gate, and all the way down that corridor, through those houses, to these southern points. Now, sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. Neighbours are assholes. Sorry about that. And the thing is, getting to this point over here, right? This is what you have to do to make sure you have the least chance of getting shot. This whole area is flat, as you can see, meaning that from A, as long as you have a slight inclination, which you have got at the points where I showed you, you can shoot any of this area. But to try and get around as fast as possible, you use these rail tracks. There is no trees in the way, there is nothing like that. It is hard terrain, as you can see, so moving across it is very easy. You actually go pretty fast. We're up to, what, 33 kilometers an hour in a Pershing? That's not bad. If you want to take all of the necessary risks or whatever, you can... take basically the least riskiest path. This is what you do. You can go through the trees. You can hope that in your Tiger 2 or your IS-2 or your Panzer 4 or your Sherman that you won't be seen through here. My guess is that you are definitely going to see through here. I can see there, right? I can see the row of houses from here, which they will be attacking you at if you have lost that point at the beginning. So therefore, because I can see there, they can shoot me. And the thing is, I am in a lot more open ground than them. So they'll be able to see me, but I definitely can't see them. Just because of the houses. It's very hard from this distance to distinguish a tank from a house, or from part of a house, especially with this damn haze that's around on this map, which makes sense. I mean, look at all the smoke and everything. There's going to be a haze. But from here, which is probably where you're going to be going, and then you're going to be going down there if you want to take the safest route, you can see those houses. But look, what can't you see? You can't see through these houses at all. Let's just get rid of this tree. You can't see any light through there, which is where a lot of these TDs are going to be, or these heavy tanks. You can see some light through there. But all along here, where they can shoot you, and they have this light behind you, they can see you in any of these positions. Whereas you cannot see them. So holding A, if you spawn on the northern side, is going to be very, very easy. Unless you take that route that I took, and that's still not 100%, you're going to rock them. So, let's go into a different one of the spawn points. So A for me, if you can hold it at the start of the battle in the first few minutes, you'll do really well. But it's going to be a large battle at the start. As you can see in the spawn point, it's, as I said before, covered by houses and also these mounds ahead, which make it a hell of a lot easier. There's also some breakable barricades here, which is wonderful. And this basically means, straight after you spawn, nothing's going to be able to hit you. You can't obviously go over these, there's tank traps everywhere, so that means that you can't rush objectives right at the start. You do have to go to the left or the right. Right now I'm going to the left just because I want to go to C. And this is the road you would take to C. Now look, nothing can really shoot you from the other 2 points. So once you are committed to a point, that's really good. Because that basically means that whoever is camping on the other 2 points or going up to them, they can't see you. There's these little mounds of earth around these muddy tracks, which you cannot get full speed on because they are muddy. So that means that getting to any of the objectives, maybe barring B, but I would still include B, is a lot easier than other maps which are a lot more open. Which makes sense, it's a city map, you're going to have stuff in the way. This is where you run into issues at this point here. Anybody from A should be able to see you if they are looking in this direction, and you cannot see them because of the haze. B is in a sunken part of the map, but if they are sat behind it, over here, or over here, then they are going to see you. Now the thing is, that's completely fine in my opinion, because you can see them because of the sky behind them, whereas the last position that we saw, you couldn't see them. But as long as you can get past this little piece of road, look, you have all of this covering you. And in a Pershing, it is quite low profile, but it is a large tank. Well, this is an example of what is a Tiger 1. Even the Tiger 1 is covered by this mound. Even if its turret was on straight, it would be covered by this mound. Same as a Tiger 2 would as well. By the way, well done on all the dead tanks and stuff. I really, really like it. But anyway, so you are clear as long as you stay here. Now this is, for C, there's going to be a big battle, I feel. Once again, it's going to be a battle where whoever wins the first part of the battle are going to have a distinct advantage, because you can just use peak tactics. You can sit here in your tank and sideswipe. So we just sit here, look out, that's where the guys from the north are going to come in, shoot, and push back again. And basically, if you get it right, I've got it slightly wrong here. Let's just set it up so it's a bit better. And that, right, basically, all they can see from this position is the side of your turrets and your tracks, and they'll just keep bouncing, keep bouncing. When they shoot, you pop out, fire, and then pop back in. Just keep doing this over and over again, and you don't even have to pop out far. So, whoever gets a distinct advantage on C as well, as A, they are going to dominate, because TDs in themselves are going to thrive on this map. It is a very front-centric map, because it's going to be very hard to flank, mainly because of the size, but also because of the fact that there is not really a lot around when it comes to actual lines of attack, because if you decide to go on a different line of attack, then you're going to get hit from one of the other domination zones. So it's definitely time not to go that way. You are stuck on one path when you take it. It is as simple as that. But anyway, if we go from C, let's say we have C from this side, and you can do this on the enemy side as well. You can just sit here and look what you can see. You see how far you can see? That is just in front of the enemy spawn. If they want to go down that road, it's the same deal. If you want to go over here, and you can do this from the northern spawn point as well. You can just go over there. It's not symmetrical, but it's basically the same. The one thing that does go against defenders in this area is that it is all mud, but then again all of the attackers have to go along mud roads as well. As you can see, the amount of mud on my Pershing right now is kind of silly. But the thing is, as an attacker, you have at least a few lines of attack when it comes to sea. They are pretty similar, but at least there's some streets that you can go down, and that means that there's a little bit of variety. But let's say you get set up here, right? Let's just get into position. A position that you probably would hold. That's a bit too much of a degree, but let's just say here. right? There's not a lot the enemy can do unless, once again, they come down here. So, the way I see A and C is that whoever is defending can get some absolute crackerjack positions at holding both of the points, but it is up to the attackers to use the flanks effectively. There is flanks available. This is a flank down here, because most people are going to be looking towards the center. If you stay around these flanks, then you have at least a decent chance of killing everything, as long as the enemy does not see you. And that is the big issue. If they have one person looking down the flanks, as probably will happen when people get more and more used to these maps, then you are kind of screwed in a way. So C and A are very easy to hold. Crazy easy to hold, no matter what side you're on. Maybe apart from the northern side of A, if you're trying to hold that. And one massive thing that gets in the way of B from this side is this bloody river. Now the thing is, you can use this, well it's not really a river, it's a pond, but you can use this to your advantage if you're coming from this side. You can duck down here, stay in the shallows, nobody's going to be able to shoot you here unless they're sat on that bridge, and we all know how easy it is to pick off somebody like that. And this is approaching B, by the way, we're looking at B. So, from this side, you can either go this way or you can go the other way. You can go across the bridge, which leaves you open to flank shots, obviously, which isn't great, or you can take the way where you have to go through heavy mud and everything like that, which is obviously this side. And if you go through this side, you better hope that nobody is at sea at all from the enemy side. If they have overrun C, you are screwed when it comes to trying to take anything. Let's say they've overrun C, right? Your only option from both sides is to go around the other side of the map. And that is it, because there is no way you're assaulting that unless you go all the way around, which you have to hope that you have enough time for. Now there is some sandbags, obviously all over the map, but they can be blown up. Let's see. Yeah, they can be blown up, or you can just run over them. So they're not an issue. But let's say people are holding C, right? And you're struggling with A, but you have nearly taken it. So you go over to this side of the map where your guys are predominantly at, and you are able from, let's just move up. Come on, you slow tank. This is the issue with Berlin. Everything is mud. So it's so bloody slow, even with something like a locust. So you go from here. You may have taken some shots from C, but it's very hard to hit this area from C. So I won't be too worried about it. So you go from here. You have decent coverage of A. If you actually look, anybody coming over here can see you, and you can see them. So I don't really see an issue with that. There is quite a bit of cover around here, but you don't want to be fighting around here. You want to be fighting around the objectives. The only time you want to be fighting around here is if you have control of A and you are trying to defend it. But anyway, let's say you have control of A. Let's say you've checked all of this for tank destroyers, Jagdtigers, Ferdinands, the bloody T-95, the Su-152s, the Su-122s, and let's say there's nothing there, right? So you get to this position. You can still see over to A, but there's an embankment, so you're not going to get shot at, which is great, just like there's embankments over here. And you've got to this position, after all of that turmoil over there, and you are able to move to B. Now, what I would always recommend, instead of taking this bridge, it's going to take you slightly longer, is to use the river. This river is not deep at all when it comes to here, or pond, whatever you want to call it. But you, as a player, have these areas, such as this, which have obviously been designed by Gaijin, which is wonderful, to get down into the shallows. Now, once again, you are hoping that a TD has decided that that hill over there is useless, even though it's probably the keyest point on this map. And you can come up here and you are into B. And as you can see, there's a lot of destructible stuff. There's a searchlight. There's a gas tank over here. If you run into, I believe it explodes. We'll see. There's a bit of wood you can destroy. Crunch, crunch, batter, batter. You know how it is. We're going to capture this, so we should actually get out. So this is B, right? B is an interesting one, because the point itself is not that much of an issue. They've obviously made it so it is easy to capture this point. You can sit on this point, be hull down, and just kind of sit here. You can't really shoot anyone, but you can stay. The things around it are the most important part. So you have these little ridges. Now, if I sit, let's say, here, right? I can shoot through the barbed wire, obviously. The barbed wire is basically not there. The tank traps are kind of there. So I can sit here in very good cover. You can hardly see my tank at all. Unless you see the muzzle shot, you cannot see this tank. So you can use these to your advantage, and these are on both sides of the cap, as you can see. So once again, this is a map which is designed for defenders, as are most of the maps in War Thunder for tanks, and it makes sense. It really does make sense, because the defender will always have an advantage. So once again, the first 5 minutes of any game are the most important. Even if it isn't taking the objectives, it is setting up position. Like a position like this, right? Now let's have a look around here, if we could. You are really going to struggle to see this Pershing until it fires. So it's always going to get the first shot on you. This is the same for this. This is the same for the other side as well. As you can see, these areas over here. Now the only point where you are open to is C. And the thing about C is there's all those ridges, so nothing can see you. And it is actually nice to get some decent terrain here, but it's still pretty terrible for tanks. One thing to note is that all of the terrain on this, apart from the railway tracks, are terrible for tanks. So moving around is going to be sluggish and slow, which means that you're going to have to move from cover to cover to cover and hope that nobody shoots you. That is the only way around it. From positions... What the hell? Yeah, I can shoot through that. From positions like this, as you can see, you can cover the whole of the right flank from B to C. And from positions, if we just turn around, you can do the same. So the defender, whoever is defending, has a massive distinct advantage. The only time the defender is not going to have this advantage is if there's a very limited numbers of them and they can't cover everywhere. But because the way the map is set out, and to be aggressive, you have to open yourself up. As you can see, well, apart from that piece of wood, let's just move forward to get it out. I can see all of this line, which is where they're going to be coming from. And the only way of avoiding this, as I said before, is to flank. So tactics are going to be used, and in a way that is wonderful. I really like that. In another way, I can see these maps being very, very one-sided, where one force is just hunker down, basically in a position to stay alive at each of the cap points, and whoever dies, the other guys just hold, and then eventually they get reinforced and they come back. But overall conclusions, the map is beautiful. There is no denying that. The Reichstag looks wonderful. The Brandenburg Gate, absolutely lovely. Opera House, not too shabby. And all of the destruction, all of the despair that was probably felt in the battle for Berlin is felt here. Whether it be the dead tanks, whether it be the Peshkas, which have obviously fallen to their doom, whether it be all of the fires, whether it be the airport, which is just over there. It is a beautiful map when it comes to graphical fidelity. When it comes to actual gameplay, favours the defender massively. in the way that if you can get into a position, you aren't going to get even touched. Mainly because there are so many places on this map where you can go hull down. And there are not many places where it's easy to attack from, unless you are going around the far flanks of this map. And the thing is, not many players are going to want to do that, because it's going to take a very long time, a very, very long time to do that, to get anywhere on this map. But overall, I do like it. I just wish it was a bit more to and fro, instead of we've won in the first 5 minutes and there's not a lot you can do about it.